Now let's discuss the types of pay structures. How is this compensation being paid to the employees? How is it that it is structured so that it is easy to execute when we are paying out that particular salary or we are paying out the whole compensation thing? One is the traditional way, then there is something called broad banding, and the one is market based. Now, first, let's talk about what is this traditional salary structure. They are divided into numerous pay grades. Salary increases are relatively small jumps between pay grades, and employers can use traditional structures to prevent employees from capping out at a maximum salary too quickly. So, if you refer to certain public sector or government sector jobs, you will see that they will have a certain pay scale mentioned in front of the position. Let's say, for example, 25,000 dash 1500 dash 45,000. So that means a person will start that particular job, or if there is a fresher who's to join that organization, and that 25,000 is the starting salary. Or let's say there is a person who's been working outside and his salary was around 20, 22,000, or even let's say 24,000. So he will be placed somewhere which will be negotiated from 24,000 to the level which is above 25,000. So they will not ask him to join at 24,000 itself. Why? Because their pay scale is somewhere at 25,000 and it has that dash 1500 dash 45,000. So the moment the employee joins the organization, somewhere around 25,000 or more, after a completion of a certain period, he will be having that increment based on the performance most of the time. That 1500 would be the maximum increment he could expect being in the same level, but if he is performing to up to the expected levels, that 1500 would be added to his basic salary. So whatever, let's say if he was earning 25,000 per month, the from that next cycle, next year onwards, that 26,500 would be his basic salary, and that will continue till the time he hits the ceiling of 45,000. So there is a typically a gap left in that, because they also expect that an employee will get promoted to the next level and the scale will change the moment the employee gets promoted. Maybe the next level could be 30,000 dash 1600 dash 50,000. So it could be that this sort of but the person could be stagnating again in the same level for whatever reason. So this is what pay scales or pay grades are all about, and it is a traditional salary structure. Then next type of pay structure is your market-based structure. They are based on what other employers pay the employees. An external pay audit to determine salary ranges for each position, comparable list of position and their description before collecting market data. Now, for example, if I'm paying a certain amount of salary to my say let's say marketing executives I have in my organization, and I'm paying them X amount. But there are, I mean, I can see that there is certain level of discontent or they're not very happy about it. So I conduct or get that data from some source, that what is it that the market is being paying to such level of people. And I found out that it is not just X, it is X plus maybe certain amount. And I could then have a normalization, or I could adjust their salaries by saying that okay, from 1st of January, I this particular level of people will be getting, instead of X, X plus something. So we normalize it or we adjust the salary structure based on the market input. That is another type of market. So every year we will have that sort of data. Whatever is the market paying, we will tend to match with what the market is paying. That is how the pay structure is evolved in an organization, typically which happens in the private sector. The third is the broad banding. Broad banding means, as the name goes, that you are trying to consolidate salary grades and ranges into just few wide levels or bands, each of which contains a relatively wide range of jobs and salary levels. More emphasis is on individual performance, so it would not have a lot of, let's say, the tall organization structure would not be there. It will be a flat organization where the number of levels of hierarchy would be less. So the type of jobs are being, whatever are being performed, are similar of what a junior person is doing and what a senior person is doing. But this kind of the salary structure will be having various levels. Type of pay structure is broad banding. The broad banding means consolidating salary grades and ranges into just few levels of bands, each of which contains a relatively wide range of jobs and salary levels. So typically, this means that the organization needs to be a flat organization. It cannot have large number of hierarchical levels. It needs to be a flatter organization. More emphasis on individual performance is there. Entry level employees start at a mid range minimum, and movement upward is based on the performance. It allows managers to reward top performers while saving money on mediocre employees. So, what are the pros and cons of this broadbanding? This is a very well accepted way of how the pays structures are designed in an organization. That because it is have giving more flexibility in assigning workers to different job grades, it provides support for flatter hierarchies and teams, and it promotes skills, learning, and mobility. So let's say it's a consultancy organization, and there is a consultant who joins from the at the entry level. So a consultant would be doing consulting most of the time, whether the person is there as a fresher, whether the person who's there at a after 2 years, after 5 years, a consultant remains a consultant, right? So this kind of work profile, if there are levels of salary which he can expect that after a certain completion of a year or 2 year or a certain tenure, he expects that his salary to be increased. So whatever is the designation, typically which remains the same because the work profile remains the same. So this broadbanding ensures that a high performer who is a consultant and who is performing, let's say, very well, gets more increments or he gets to a higher level of salary than a person who joins at a consultant level with that kind of salary, but then he's not performing really great. So he will be also called consultant. His base salary would remain in that particular level, but then he will not get those kind of increments because the broadband is there, that a consultant within that broadband has the flexibility of getting more salary. So this rewards the good performers, and it is a very suitable way of retaining and attracting talent in typically service sector kind of organizations. Now, what are the latest, or I would say the current trends as far as compensation is concerned? The These days we talk of pay for performance, we talk of competency based pay, we talk of skill based pay. Now, what are all these programs about? What are the main elements regarding behind the skill, competency, or knowledge based pay programs? It is a system that defines specific skills and a process for tying the person's pay to his or her skill. Again, let's take an example of an eye specialist. A doctor who is just an eye specialist will be having a certain consultation fee. But the moment he specializes in something, for example, he becomes a retina specialist, or there is a specialization which he manages or operates on very typical cataract kind of thing. So these are two different specializations, super specialization after the specialization of this ophthalmology. So there is one simple general physician, then you take that post graduation in ophthalmology, and beyond that there are super specialization in retina or whatever. So let's say the more that those kind of skills are being added in a person who is in healthcare, who is in medical industry, the more he will be eligible to be paid or expect to be paid on a higher level. So this is what, that when a system that defines specific skills and a process for tying the person's pay to his or her skill. So definitely a retina specialist would be charging much higher because he's a super specialist, not just eye specialist. So next is a training system that lets the employees seek and acquire skills. So when we are talking of this kind of competency based pay or skill based pay, we are also as an organization giving that opportunity for employees to seek and acquire those kind of skills. A formal competency testing system, I mean, if an organization is giving that sort of environment that a person who acquires more skill relevant to the organization goal, then definitely there should be a formal competency testing system as well, because they would want the person who has gained that skill, who is competent enough to work or deliver more, he should also be equally rewarded. And for that, because it involves money, the person has to be tested. So that testing system should be there if we are talking of this competency based pay. A work design that lets employees move among the jobs to permit work assignment flexibility. Now, as a let's say a employee in an organization, if I've acquired some additional skills, then if I'm coming back and doing the same job, it doesn't make sense. So when an organization is devising such kind of competency based pay programs, they also need to ensure that there is a certain work design within the organization which allows when an employee gains something, any additional skill, competency or knowledge, then there are certain jobs available where he can move in, where he can progress to. There is a proper career progression defined for that sort of additional competency or additional skill which an employee has gained, and he is compensated better because he's performing that additional job or a higher kind of a skill set, which are related to that job, right? So why do we use this sort of competency based pay? Because it supports high performance work system. Definitely an employee who is motivated to add on to his own skill and then come back and work for the organization with that added competency levels or skill based levels, so it is supporting a high performance work system. It supports strategic aims. Now if the company is giving that kind of environment where an employee is improving his competency and skill, and also giving that sort of environment where he can practice those competency and skill, that means this is some kind of connection or alignment of the person's skills with the corporate strategy or with the strategic intent of the organization. Of course, why do we again use this competency based pay? That supports our performance management system so that the performers are rewarded in a good way, and those who are mediocre performers or not performing can be weeded out. So, this sort of thing encourages these star performers to work more and get paid more. Let me know if you have any queries. Stay tuned for more content.